This isn't over.
You're absolutely right. It isn't. See you at the community meeting.
This is your final warning regarding the overgrown hedges. We sent 3 notices. The fines start accruing tomorrow if this isn't handled.
Get that camera off my property! Sandra Martinez's voice cut through the morning air like a knife. She stood on my driveway in a pale pink blazer, pointing at my Ring doorbell with one manicured finger. This is the final warning, Mr. Brennan. I'm issuing a $500 fine for illegal surveillance. I kept my voice steady, looking down at the orange envelope she'd just slapped into my hand. Sandra, I just got home from Denver 3 hours ago. What surveillance? Don't play dumb, she snapped, her face flushing. Your house was blasting music at 2 a.m. The entire neighborhood called. I opened the envelope slowly. $500 fine. Severe noise violation. Time, 2:47 a.m. The 12th of April 2025. I looked up at her, then pulled my phone from my pocket. That's interesting. Because at 2:47 a.m., I was 30,000 feet over Kansas. I held up my Southwest Airlines boarding pass on the screen. United Flight 1284. Want to call them and verify? For just a second, one beautiful crystalline second, I watched her confidence crack, then it came roaring back. I don't care where you claim you were. The complaint was filed. The fine stands. She spun on her heel and marched away, pink blazer catching the sunlight. I stood there holding that orange envelope, and something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't a mistake. This was a setup. And whoever set me up just made a very, very big mistake. Because I'm Thomas Brennan, 62 years old, and I spent 35 years as a cybersecurity analyst finding things people thought they'd hidden. Time to go to work. My name is Thomas Brennan. I live at 4529 Oakmont Drive in Henderson, Nevada, a suburb of Las Vegas where the houses all look identical and the HOA rules are thicker than the phone book. I'm retired now. Spend my days with my wife, Rachel, maintaining our house and occasionally consulting for old clients who still trust my ability to find digital needles in massive haystacks. Rachel met me at the door before I even got my key in the lock. She'd been watching from the window. That woman is certifiably insane, she said, taking my carry-on bag. Rachel's 59, spent 30 years as an ER nurse, and has a clinical ability to assess situations that borders on supernatural. She doesn't panic. She diagnoses. Tell me everything, I said, dropping into my favorite chair. The house was cool, quiet, exactly how I'd left it 48 hours ago when I flew to Denver to help my daughter move apartments. Rachel handed me coffee, sat across from me, and recounted the whole thing. At 2:47 a.m., someone had called in a noise complaint about our house, deafening music, according to Sandra's notes. By 3:15 a.m., a Henderson police officer had responded. But here's the thing. When he arrived, everything was silent. No music, no noise, nothing. The officer, his name was Castellano, according to the report Rachel showed me had noted it in his report, arrived on scene. No audible disturbance. Resident not home. Unfounded complaint. But Sandra had issued the fine anyway, sent it to us via certified mail that arrived yesterday, posted the orange copy on our door this morning like a scarlet letter. She's escalating, Rachel said quietly. The garbage can thing, the mailbox color, the tree trimming, those were all petty. This is different. She was right. We'd been dealing with Sandra Martinez for 18 months, ever since she'd been elected HOA president in a low turnout election most of the neighborhood had ignored. She was 52, ran a real estate staging business, and had that particular brand of suburban authority that comes from never being told no by anyone who mattered. The pink blazer was her signature. Wore it to every HOA meeting, every neighborhood confrontation, every moment she needed to project power. I'd seen her wear it in winter when it was 40 degrees outside. It was armor. But the petty stuff had been manageable. $25 fine for garbage cans out 15 minutes too early. $50 warning for mailbox being desert tan instead of approved desert beige. written notice about our messy ash tree dropping leaves excessively onto the sidewalk. We'd paid the small fines, ignored the warnings, kept our heads down. This, though, this was different. This was $500. This was fabricated evidence. This was personal. First things first, I said, the old analyst instincts kicking in. Let's see what the digital witness has to say. We have a Ring doorbell camera, basic model, motion activated, 1080p resolution, cloud storage. I'd installed it 3 years ago after a neighbor's package got stolen. Now it was about to become the most important piece of hardware I owned. I pulled out my laptop, logged into the Ring app, and started scrolling through the timeline. 2 p.m. yesterday. Mail carrier. 11:47 p.m. Neighborhood cat. 1:15 a.m. Raccoon investigating our trash. 2:32 a.m. Motion detected. I clicked it. The video loaded that familiar greenish night vision glow. Our front porch, empty and quiet. Then a figure appeared from the left side of the frame, walking with purpose up our driveway. I froze the video. Enhanced the image. Rachel, I said quietly, come look at this. She leaned over my shoulder. On the screen, clear as day despite the night vision, was Sandra Martinez. She was wearing a tracksuit, the expensive kind with reflective stripes, and carrying something large and rectangular, a Bluetooth speaker. We watched in silence as she placed it on our porch, right next to the azalea bush, pulled out her phone. A second later, even through the Ring's small speaker, we could hear it. A blast of noise so loud and jarring it sounded like someone throwing metal pots down a staircase to a death metal soundtrack. The speaker blared for exactly 90 seconds. Then Sandra reached down, tapped her phone, and the noise stopped. She picked up the speaker, tucked it under her arm, and power walked back down the driveway. The video ended. Rachel and I just sat there. The audacity of it was breathtaking. She hadn't just filed a false complaint, she'd manufactured the evidence. Check the timeline again, Rachel said, her nurse voice activating. What happened next? I scrolled forward. 2:47 a.m. Another motion event. I clicked it. A Henderson police cruiser pulled up. Officer Castellano got out, looked around, walked up to our porch. The speaker was gone. No noise. Just a quiet residential street at 3 a.m. He shined his flashlight around, checked our door, then walked back to his car and left. She waited until he got there, Rachel said slowly, working through the timeline. She set it off at 2:32, filed the complaint from her phone, then removed the speaker before the cop arrived. Premeditated, I confirmed. Planned, executed. And she thought she got away with it. Rachel looked at me with that expression she gets when she's made a diagnosis. What are you going to do? I pulled out my phone and started making calls. What I always do, follow the evidence. First call, Officer Castellano. Henderson PD forwarded me to his direct line. He remembered the call. Yeah, that was weird, he said. Dispatch got a complaint about deafening music, but when I got there, dead silent. I found what looked like a portable speaker behind a bush, but it was off. Figured kids ran off when they saw my lights. Were you wearing your body camera? I asked. Always. Department policy. I'd like to file a formal report, and I'd like to request that body cam footage. He was quiet for a moment. You got something? I got everything, I said. Ring doorbell caught the whole thing. Woman who filed the complaint planted the speaker herself. Jesus, he breathed. Yeah, that's fraud. File the report online. Reference incident number HEN 0420251847. I'll flag the body cam footage for release. You'll have it in 48 hours. Thank you, officer. Thank you, he said. I hate when people waste our time with bullshit calls. Second call, my lawyer, Janet Reeves, property law specialist, sharp as a scalpel. I'd worked with her when we bought this house. Tom, what's Sandra done now? She asked when she heard my voice. I told her. Everything. The fabricated complaint, the Ring footage, the $500 fine. I have her on video planting fake evidence. I finished. What are my options? Well, Janet said, and I could hear her smile through the phone. You're not paying that fine, for starters. And Tom, what she did isn't just HOA overreach. It's criminal fraud. False police report. Possibly harassment. You've got enough to file a formal complaint and sue for damages. But, she paused. What? In my experience, people who do this once do it all the time. Have you talked to your neighbors? That stopped me. Not yet. You should. Because I'm willing to bet you're not her only target. That afternoon, Rachel and I went for a walk. Not with clipboards and scowls like Sandra, but with sympathetic ears and a simple question. Has Sandra ever fined you for something that seemed off? First stop, Mr. Chen, 3 houses down. He's 76, retired engineer from Taiwan, spends his days tending an immaculate garden that's won neighborhood beautification awards. His roses are legendary. His irrigation system is something out of an engineering textbook. Tom, he greeted us warmly. Rachel, beautiful day. It is, I agreed. We made small talk about his roses. He'd just gotten a new hybrid variety, pale yellow with pink edges. After a few minutes, I gently brought it up. Hey, random question, have you ever had issues with HOA fines? His face fell. The warmth vanished like someone had flipped a switch. His shoulders slumped. He glanced towards Sandra's house across the way, then back at us. Come inside, he said quietly. His living room was immaculate. Photos of grandchildren on every surface. A wall of engineering certificates from his 40-year career at Boeing. He disappeared into his office and returned with a folder, the kind of folder someone builds when they're scared, but methodical. Inside was a fine from 2 months ago, $50. Reason: garden hose not properly coiled in regulation circular formation per CCR 7.4. B. The photo attached showed his hose in a neat loop beside his spigot, not a perfect circle, maybe more of an oval, but far from a violation by any reasonable standard. I measured the CCRs, he said, his engineer brain evident. Regulation 7.4. B says hoses must be neatly stored when not in use. That's it. No specification about circular formation. No definition of neat. But she said this. He pointed at his oval-shaped coil. This was non-compliant. Did you fight it? Rachel asked gently. He shook his head. I'm on Social Security, Medicare, fixed income, $50 is a week of groceries. But more than that? His voice dropped. I'm 76. I'm tired. Fighting costs energy I don't have, and I'm scared. What if she escalates? What if she finds 10 more violations? What if she makes my life miserable? He looked at us with eyes that had seen too much stress. I just paid it. It was easier. Rachel's hand found mine and squeezed hard. We thanked Mr. Chen, promised we'd be in touch, and left. The moment we were out of earshot, Rachel said, "That woman is targeting elderly people who can't fight back. That's predatory." I know, I said, and I bet he's not the only one. Next house, the Johnsons, young couple with a newborn. Jessica answered the door with baby Emily on her hip, looking exhausted in that new parent way. Tom. Rachel! Hi! She was friendly, but harried. Bottles were visible in the sink behind her. A breast pump sat on the kitchen counter. The chaos of new parenthood was everywhere. After cooing over Emily for a minute, she was adorable, all chub and big eyes. I asked about the HOA. Jessica's expression darkened. Wait here, she said. She returned with a fine. $100. Reason: unauthorized visible storage in open garage during daylight hours. The photo showed their baby stroller, visible just inside the garage while the door was open. We were loading the car, Jessica explained, shifting Emily to her other hip. The baby started fussing. It was maybe 10 minutes, max. We were taking Emily to her pediatrician appointment. Sandra drove by, stopped, took a photo, and drove off. The fine showed up 2 days later. Did you fight it? Tom, look at me! She gestured to the chaos around her. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. My husband works 12-hour days. We're drowning in diapers and formula costs. Fighting an HOA fine means research, phone calls, maybe a lawyer. We don't have the time or the energy, so we paid it $100 just to make it go away. She looked at us, and I saw something break in her expression, but it felt like being robbed. Like someone punched us when we were already down. After we left, Rachel was quiet for a whole block. Then, she's targeting new parents too, people who are too overwhelmed to push back. Young couples, elderly people, single parents, anyone vulnerable. I said, anyone who can't afford to fight. It's systematic. It's evil, Rachel corrected. I couldn't argue. Then Evelyn Rodriguez, single mom with 2 boys, ages 8 and 11. Her house was neat, but lived-in bikes in the driveway, a basketball hoop by the garage, kids' artwork visible through the windows. She answered the door in scrubs. She worked as a dental hygienist and looked immediately wary when she saw us. If this is about the HOA, I already paid, she said defensively. We're not here to collect, Rachel said quickly. We're here because we think Sandra has been targeting people unfairly. We're gathering information. Evelyn's shoulders relaxed slightly. Come in. Her fine was $75. Reason: basketball equipment positioned in violation of setback requirements, Section 9.2. C. The photo showed her son's portable basketball hoop, the kind on wheels that you can move around. It was positioned at the edge of the driveway, maybe 6 inches from the sidewalk. I measured it, Evelyn said, pulling out a tape measure like she'd been waiting to show someone. The regulation says sports equipment must maintain a 3-foot setback from public walkways. I measured it twice. It was 3 feet, 1 inch. Sandra came by, measured it herself with a different tape measure, and said mine was wrong. She said it was 2 feet, 11 inches. She looked at us with a mixture of anger and exhaustion. I'm a single mom. I work full-time. My kids love basketball. It keeps them active, keeps them out of trouble. But I can't afford to take time off work to fight a $75 fine. And even if I did, who would they believe? An HOA president with an official measurement? Or me? You paid it, I said. It wasn't a question. I paid it. And I moved the hoop back another foot just to be safe. Now my kids have less space to play. But at least Sandra stays away. She paused. Is she really targeting people, or am I just paranoid? You're not paranoid, Rachel said firmly. We've talked to 6 other families today. Same pattern. Small fines for questionable violations, all paid because fighting back seemed impossible. Evelyn's eyes welled up. I thought it was just me. I thought I'd done something wrong. You didn't, I said. She did. And we're going to prove it. Then Michael Torres, retired firefighter whose elderly pug had been fined $40 for excessive barking in violation of Noise Ordinance 11.3. A. We met the pug, a wheezing, snorting 12-year-old named Barkley who looked like a cross between a loaf of bread and an asthmatic vacuum cleaner. This is your noise violation? Rachel asked, watching Barkley struggle to climb onto the couch. The dog made a sound like a congested elephant seal. According to Sandra, yes, Michael said. She filed a complaint saying Barkley barks excessively and disturbingly between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. every morning, disturbing her peace. Does he bark? I asked. He snorts, Michael said. He's got a smooshed face. That's how pugs breathe. It's loud, sure, but it's not barking. And it's not excessive, it's just him breathing while he eats breakfast. He showed us the fine. In the description, Sandra had written, continuous disruptive barking audible from street, creating neighborhood disturbance. She attached no audio evidence, Michael pointed out. No video, no witness statements from any other neighbor, just her complaint, and the fine. Did anyone else complain about Barkley? No, Michael said. I asked my neighbors on both sides and across the street. Nobody has ever mentioned Barkley being noisy, because he's not. He's 12 years old and sleeps 20 hours a day. Michael's voice got tight. I'm on a firefighter's pension. It's not huge. $40 is dinner out with my wife. But I paid it, because Sandra said if I didn't, she'd file more complaints. She said she'd escalate it to animal control. Said Barkley might be declared a nuisance animal and I'd have to get rid of him. His voice cracked. Barkley is my best friend. I've had him since he was a puppy. I'm not losing him over Sandra's power trip. So I paid, and I keep him inside during the time she complained about, even though he loves morning sun on the patio. We left feeling sick. She threatened his dog, Rachel said. She knew exactly what would hurt him most, and she weaponized it. By the time we finished our walk, we had documented 11 fines across 7 households. Mr. Chen, $50 hose coiling. The Johnsons' $100 stroller visible in garage. Evelyn Rodriguez, $75 basketball hoop placement. Michael Torres, $40. Pug barking. Patricia Kim, $25. Welcome mat. Unapproved earth tone. The Hendersons, $50. Mailbox. Paint shade. Frank Martinez, $60. Decorative flamingo. Excessive lawn ornamentation, all different amounts, all paid. All from people who'd been specifically targeted because they were vulnerable. Elderly, young parents, single parents, anyone who seemed unable to fight back. The total from just those 7 households, $400. And that was just the people we'd talked to. How many others had paid and suffered in silence? That evening, I sat in my cave and stared at my wall of data. I'd printed out each fine and pinned them to a corkboard. Below each fine, I'd written the victim's demographic: 76, retired, fixed income, under Mr. Chen's fine, new parents, infant, single income, under the Johnsons, single mom, 2 kids, hourly wage, under Evelyn's. A pattern emerged that made my blood run cold. Sandra wasn't just collecting fines randomly, she was profiling. She was identifying the most vulnerable households, people least able to fight back, and targeting them systematically. She'd built a predator's handbook disguised as HOA enforcement. I pulled up the HOA's complete fine records from Robert Kim's flash drive. If my theory was right, there should be households she'd never find. The wealthy ones. The ones with lawyers on retainer. The ones who'd push back. I cross-referenced the fine list against property records showing home values and deed information. Sure enough, every home valued over $750,000, 0 fines. Every home with a law firm listed on the deed indicating a lawyer lived there, 0 fines. Every home with a trust listed as the owner indicating wealth, 0 fines. But homes valued under $500,000? Fined repeatedly. Homes with single-name owners indicating no spouse, possible single parent, fined heavily. Homes owned by people over 65, fined constantly. It was economic profiling, legal redlining, predatory enforcement, and it was all documented in her own records. "Rachel," I called out, "you need to see this." She came into my cave, looked at my corkboard of fines with demographic data, and went very still. "Oh my God," she said quietly. She's hunting, I confirmed. She identified the weakest members of the herd and picked them off one by one. Anyone who could fight back, untouched. Anyone vulnerable, relentlessly targeted. "That's not just fraud," Rachel said. "That's sociopathic." I nodded, feeling cold. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about power, about finding people you could hurt without consequence, about feeding on fear. Sandra Martinez wasn't just a thief. She was a predator, and we were about to take her down with her own data. That night, I sat in my home office, what Rachel calls the cave, and pulled up the HOA's website. It was poorly designed, full of stock photos and broken links. But buried in the community documents section, I found what I was looking for: the annual budget. I downloaded the PDF and opened it with the same feeling I used to get before diving into a compromised server. Something was wrong here. I could feel it. The budget was standard stuff at first: landscaping contracts, pool maintenance, insurance. But then, one line item jumped out: Monthly payment to Desert Compliance Consulting LLC, $2,500. The description was hilariously vague. Community standards, enforcement, and administrative consultation. $2,500 per month, every month, for 12 months, $30,000 annually. For what, exactly? I opened a new tab and navigated to the Nevada Secretary of State's Business Registry. Typed in Desert Compliance Consulting LLC. Hit enter. The registration loaded. A Nevada LLC formed 19 months ago. Registered agent Sandra Martinez. Office address: a UPS store mailbox in a strip mall on Boulder Highway. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long, slow breath. "Oh, you absolute idiot," I said to the empty room. She'd been billing the HOA for compliance consulting through a shell company she owned. Every month, $2,500 of the neighborhood's dues went straight into her pocket, and the fines? Those were bonus income. A little side hustle to supplement the systematic embezzlement? Rachel appeared in the doorway with 2 glasses of wine. "You found something." "I found everything," I said, turning the laptop to show her. She read the screen, her expression never changing. Then she took a long sip of wine. "You know what the scary thing is?" she said. "What?" She probably thought she was clever. I needed expert confirmation before I went nuclear. Sunday morning, I called my brother-in-law, Martin. He's a forensic accountant who'd worked major fraud cases for the FBI before retiring. "Marty," I said when he answered, "hypothetical question. If an HOA president was approving payments to a shell company she secretly owned, what are we looking at legally?" He whistled. "That's not hypothetical, is it?" "Not even a little. Okay. That's conflict of interest, self-dealing, possible wire fraud if she used electronic transfers, and embezzlement if you can prove she knew she wasn't entitled to the money. We're talking felony territory, Tom. State, and possibly federal. What if she was also manufacturing fake violations to collect additional fines? Then you add fraud, false statements, potentially criminal harassment depending on how systematic it was. Tom, who is this? Henderson HOA president. And it's systematic. I've got 11 neighbors with questionable fines in the last 6 months. All different amounts, all just small enough that people paid instead of fighting." "Oh, she's good," Marty said admiringly. "Classic death by 1,000 paper cuts. The individual amounts are too small to justify hiring a lawyer, but collectively, that's a profitable little scheme." "How do I prove it?" "You need to connect the dots. Show the pattern. If you can get payment records from the HOA, I've got the budget showing payments to her shell company. Perfect. That's motive. Now you need to show she was aware of the conflict, which is easy if she's the one approving the payments, and you need to document the systematic targeting. Can you get records of all fines issued during her tenure?" I thought about that. HOA board meetings are public record. They're required to keep minutes. Then get those minutes. They'll show every fine she proposed and approved, build a timeline, show the volume increased after she took office, show the pattern, make it impossible for anyone to claim this was just innocent mistakes. "Thanks, Marty. Tom, be careful. People who set up schemes like this don't like getting caught. She's already manufactured evidence against you once. Watch your back." Monday morning, I filed a formal Freedom of Information request for all HOA board meeting minutes from the past 2 years. Nevada's nonprofit corporation law requires HOAs to provide these documents to any member who requests them. They had 10 business days to comply. I didn't wait. Tuesday afternoon, while Sandra was out, I'd learned her schedule from watching Ring footage. I went door to door in my neighborhood, not asking for anything, just informing. "Hi, I'm Tom Brennan from Oakmont Drive. I'm organizing a special community meeting about HOA transparency. I think you might want to attend. Can I count you in?" Most people were cautious at first, but when I mentioned it was about questionable fines and where our HOA dues are really going, their expressions changed. Anger, recognition. Relief. By Wednesday, I had 47 households confirmed. Our neighborhood had 183 homes. That was 26% of the voting base, enough to do damage. Thursday, the HOA delivered my requested documents, 2 boxes of meeting minutes, financial reports, and fine records. I spent the entire weekend in my cave, building a timeline. What I found was stunning. In the 12 months before Sandra became president, the HOA issued an average of 4 fines per month. Most were legitimate, actual violations like parking commercial vehicles on the street or leaving trash cans out for days. In the 18 months since Sandra took office, the HOA averaged 23 fines per month, a 475% increase. And the violations had gotten increasingly petty. Hoses not coiled correctly, welcome mats the wrong color, bushes excessively full, garage doors left open too long. The fine amounts were strategically calibrated: $25, $40, $50, $75, $100, just small enough to be annoying but not worth hiring a lawyer. But when you added them all up, Sandra had collected $47,000 in fines during her 18-month tenure. Meanwhile, she'd paid her shell company $45,000 over the same period. The math was beautiful in its simplicity. She'd built a system where neighborhood dues funded her consulting payments and bullshit fines provided her discretionary spending money. And she'd gotten away with it because each individual victim felt isolated, embarrassed, and too small to fight back. Friday morning, Sandra made her next move. Rachel and I were having coffee on the patio when the doorbell rang. 3 people stood on our porch: Sandra and 2 large men I'd never seen before. They wore matching navy polo shirts with HOA compliance embroidered on the chest. Sandra held her clipboard. The men looked like they'd been hired from a temp agency for intimidating presence. Rachel answered the door. I stayed back, phone out, already recording. Rachel, Sandra said, voice syrupy sweet, "We're here to conduct a surprise compliance inspection of your garage." Rachel didn't even blink. She shifted her weight, blocking the doorway. Inspection for what? We received a credible report of unauthorized commercial activity being conducted from your residence. It was such a transparent attempt at retaliation. Our garage contained a lawnmower, some old paint cans, and my collection of vintage computer equipment. Credible report from whom? Rachel asked. That's confidential. Do you have a warrant? Sandra scoffed. I don't need a warrant. I'm the HOA president. Rachel took a small step forward. Her voice dropped to that clinical ER nurse tone she uses when dealing with difficult patients. Sandra, you're also a person who was on my property at 2:30 a.m. planting fake evidence. You're currently standing on my porch uninvited. So I'll say this once. No warrant, no entry. Come back with a court order signed by a judge. Until then, turn around and leave. Sandra's face went red. This will be noted in your file. Great, Rachel interrupted. Note it. And while you're taking notes, write this down. Nevada Revised Statute 200.603. Trespassing. You have 10 seconds to get off our property before I call the police. Again, Sandra sputtered. The 2 hired muscles exchanged uncomfortable glances. They hadn't signed up for this. This isn't over, Sandra hissed. You're absolutely right, Rachel said sweetly. It isn't. See you at the community meeting. She closed the door in Sandra's face. I stopped recording. That was beautiful, I said. I've dealt with worse in the ER, Rachel replied, pouring herself more coffee. At least she's not actively bleeding. That afternoon, I got a call from Officer Castellano. Mr. Brennan, your body cam footage came through. You're gonna want to see this. I drove to the station. He pulled it up on his computer. The footage showed exactly what I expected. His arrival at 2:47 a.m. to a completely silent street. He'd walked up to our porch, shined his flashlight around. Then, and this was the gold, he'd spotted the Bluetooth speaker behind the azalea bush. The body cam caught him picking it up, examining it. That's odd, his voice said on the recording. He'd noted the brand, taken a photo, then set it back down and marked the complaint as unfounded. I thought it was weird, Castellano said. A speaker just sitting there, nobody around? But I figured kids ditched it when they heard me coming. It wasn't kids, I said. I know that now. Listen, Mr. Brennan Tom, I've been a cop for 12 years. I've seen plenty of HOA disputes. But this? He shook his head. This is criminal. False reporting. Fraud. Harassment. You're building a real case here. I'm trying. The community meeting is Tuesday night. Want some advice? I nodded. Make it simple. People's eyes glaze over with legal jargon. Show them the video. Show them the money trail. Make it so obvious that even her supporters can't deny it. And Tom? He leaned forward. I'll be there. In uniform. Just in case. The weekend before the meeting, something unexpected happened. A quiet man named Robert Kim knocked on our door. He was the HOA treasurer, a nervous, soft-spoken accountant who'd always seemed too timid for the job. Mr. Brennan, he said, hand shaking. Can we talk? I invited him in. Rachel made tea. He sat at our kitchen table looking like he might throw up. I need to tell you something, he said finally, about Sandra. And the money. He pulled out a flash drive. I've been making copies for a year now. Every time she made me sign checks to that consulting company, something felt wrong. But she told me it was for legal retainers, administrative costs. I believed her. He slid the flash drive across the table. This is everything. Bank statements from Desert Compliance Consulting. Check copies. Transfer records. It's all here. Why now? Rachel asked gently. Why are you coming forward? His voice cracked. Because I saw what she did to you, the fake fine, the harassment, and I realized if she's willing to frame someone to break the law that openly, then everything else she told me was probably a lie too. I can't be part of it anymore. He looked at me with desperate eyes. I didn't know it was embezzlement. I swear I didn't know. But now I do. And I can't sleep at night knowing I helped her steal from our neighbors. Robert, I said carefully, what's on this drive? Everything. Her shell company's bank account shows she was pulling cash right after fine payments cleared. I matched the dates. It's all there. The deposits from the HOA, the withdrawals to her personal account. All of it. He stood up, looking smaller somehow. I'm turning in my resignation Tuesday, before the meeting. I wanted you to have this first, so you could stop her. After he left, I plugged in the flash drive. Robert hadn't exaggerated. It was a forensic accountant's dream, complete financial records showing every dollar that flowed through Sandra's scheme, checks to Desert Compliance matched to withdrawals the next day, cash pulls from ATMs timed right after fine collections cleared. 18 months of systematic theft, documented in spreadsheets and bank statements. We have her, Rachel said quietly. We really have her. I looked at the data on my screen and felt something cold and final settle over me. This wasn't just about our $500 fine anymore. This was about justice for every neighbor who'd paid a bogus fine. Every elderly person on Social Security who'd chosen between groceries and HOA compliance. Tuesday night couldn't come fast enough. The community center meeting room was packed. I'd expected maybe 50 people. 127 showed up. Word had spread. The rumor mill had done its work. People wanted answers. Sandra sat at the head table with the remaining board members. She wore a power suit, the color of dried blood. Her pink blazer, I noticed, was nowhere in sight. The other board members looked nervous, fidgeting with papers. Robert Kim's empty seat sat between them like an accusation. I'd set up in the back corner. Laptop, projector, portable battery backup. Never trust someone else's power source lesson from 35 years in IT. This meeting of the Henderson Meadows HOA is now in session, Sandra announced, banging a gavel. She went through standard agenda items, minutes from last meeting, treasurer's report, which she glossed over quickly since Robert had quit, and then moved toward new business. Before we continue, I stood up, voice carrying across the room. I have a presentation for the community about transparency and fraud. Sandra's face went white. This isn't on the agenda. Section 12.4 of our bylaws, I interrupted. Any member in good standing may present community concerns during new business. I'm in good standing. Barely, considering the fake fine you tried to stick me with. The room went silent. People shifted in their seats. I moved to hear him out. Someone called from the middle rows. Seconded, came another voice. Sandra's jaw tightened, but she was trapped by her own rules. Fine, make it quick. I walked to the front, connected my laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared, a timeline of fraud. Slide 1, I said calmly, the 12th of April, 2025, 2:32 a.m. I played the ring footage. The room watched in complete silence as Sandra Martinez, their HOA president, planted a Bluetooth speaker on my porch and triggered it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Slide 2, 2:47 a.m. Officer Castellano's body cam footage showing the silent street. Officer found no noise violation because there wasn't one. But Sandra issued a $500 fine anyway. The murmurs grew louder. Slide 3. The pattern. A chart appeared showing fine volume before and after Sandra's election. 4 fines per month before she took office. 23 per month after. A 475% increase. Total collected, $47,000 in 18 months. Slide 4. The money. A flowchart appeared on screen. HOA Dues Desert Compliance Consulting LLC. Sandra Martinez. She created a shell company, paid herself $2,500 monthly for fake consulting. That's $45,000 over 18 months. Guess who the registered agent is? I showed the Nevada business registration with her name highlighted. The room erupted. People were turning in their seats, looking at Sandra, faces twisted with anger. "My hose coil!" Mr. Chin shouted. "You stole from me to pay yourself!" "My son's basketball," Evelyn Rodriguez yelled. From the back, someone called out, "My pug says you're going to jail." Sandra was on her feet, face flushed. "This is slander! Those documents are fake!" Slide 5, I continued, voice cutting through the noise. Bank records. Robert Kim's flash drive data appeared on screen. Complete financial records from Desert Compliance Consulting. Every deposit, every withdrawal, every ATM cash pull that coincidentally happened right after fine payments cleared, all dates matched, all documented. I paused, looking at Sandra. "Oh, and your treasurer? Robert Kim? He resigned 3 hours ago and voluntarily provided these records. He's cooperating with investigators." Sandra's face went from red to ashen white. Then, from the side of the room, a voice I recognized. "Sandra Martinez?" Officer Castellano stepped forward in full uniform, another detective in plainclothes beside him. "We need you to come down to the station. We have some questions about fraud, embezzlement, and filing false police reports." The room went completely silent. Every eye was on Sandra. She looked from the projection screen to the bank records to the police officers to the crowd of faces staring at her with cold, hard fury. You can't prove," her voice cracked. "Actually," I said quietly, "we can. Every single piece of it. And your treasurer just flipped on you." The plainclothes detective pulled out handcuffs. "Not yet, just held them. A visual reminder. Ma'am, you can come voluntarily, or we can do this the hard way. Your choice." Sandra walked out between the two officers, her power suit looking more like a costume than armor. As they led her past me, she hissed, "I'll sue you for everything." "With what money?" I replied. "The $47,000 you stole is about to become Exhibit A." The meeting erupted in applause as the doors closed behind her. It wasn't applause for me. It was for themselves. For finally taking back their community. For refusing to be victims anymore. Officer Castellano gave me a nod as he left. "Good work, analyst." 3 weeks later, life had settled into something resembling normal. The Nevada Attorney General's office filed charges: 14 counts of fraud, 12 counts of embezzlement, 1 count of filing a false police report, and 5 counts of criminal harassment. Sandra's lawyer tried to negotiate, but with Robert Kim's testimony and our mountain of documentation, they had nothing to work with. The new interim HOA board voted unanimously to void all questionable fines from Sandra's tenure and begin the restitution process, subject to court approval, but the will was there. Mr. Chen got his $50 back, the Johnsons got their $100, Evelyn Rodriguez got her $75, every single petty, bogus fine refunded. Frank Chen, a neighbor I hadn't known well, showed up at our door with a gift. A garden gnome holding a tiny painted receipt. "For the hero of Oakmont Drive," he said, grinning. Rachel placed it in our garden, right where Sandra's camera used to point at our house. The camera was gone now, removed as part of the new board's first official act. On a warm evening in early May, Rachel and I sat on our porch swing, watching the sunset paint the desert sky in oranges and purples. The neighborhood was alive with normal sounds. Kids playing basketball hoops positioned wherever they wanted, dogs barking no fines for pugs, garage doors open, strollers fully visible, and garden hoses coiled, however their owners damn well pleased. "It's quiet," Rachel said, head on my shoulder. "Good, quiet. The best kind," I agreed. "You know what's funny?" she asked. "What?" "All those years you spent finding security breaches and network vulnerabilities, you never thought you'd use those skills to take down an HOA president." I laughed. True. But the methodology's the same. Find the exploit. Document the vulnerability. Present the evidence. System secured. "Speaking of systems," Rachel said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "What's the next target?" I pulled her closer. "Absolutely nothing. I'm retired. Done. Finished. No more investigations." "Sure you are." "I mean it." "Uh-huh." We sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of a neighborhood that was finally, truly peaceful. No orange envelopes taped to doors. No fake noise violations. No fear of vindictive fines for imaginary infractions. Just people living their lives, free from someone else's need for control and cash. In the distance, a dog barked. Probably Mr. Torres's pug, Snorty, whose bark still sounded like an asthmatic vacuum cleaner. A car alarm went off somewhere. A motorcycle revved. Normal neighborhood noise. Beautiful, unregulated, totally legal noise. "You know what the best part is?" I said. "What?" "Sandra's in a court-mandated financial literacy class right now, learning about ethical business practices and conflict of interest." Rachel laughed, a real full-throated sound of pure joy. "That's beautiful. I thought you'd appreciate it." The sun dipped below the horizon, and the first stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the neighborhood, someone was playing music. Not too loud, not at 2 a.m. Just normal evening music, drifting through open windows. No one was planting speakers. No one was filing fake complaints. No one was weaponizing the HOA for personal profit. The system was secured. The vulnerability was patched. The threat was neutralized. And Thomas Brennan, retired cybersecurity analyst, could finally, peacefully, completely relax. "Hey, Tom?" Rachel said after a while. "Yeah?" "Next time someone tries to frame us for something, can we just move? Where's the fun in that?" She laughed again, and I joined her. Our laughter mixed with the evening sounds of the neighborhood, drifting up into the clear Nevada sky. We had our home back. We had our peace back. And Sandra Martinez, she had a court date. Several of them, actually. Justice delayed is justice denied, but justice documented, methodically proven, and presented with irrefutable evidence, that's just justice, the right kind. The only kind that matters? The kind you can take to the bank, unlike Sandra's shell company, which was now frozen pending restitution proceedings. Somewhere in the desert night, a cricket began chirping, then another, then a whole chorus of them. "You know why crickets are so lucky?" I asked. Rachel sighed, but I could see her smile. "Why, Tom?" "Because they can make all the noise they want, and they never, ever get an HOA fine." She groaned, then laughed, then kissed me. And somewhere in Las Vegas, in a courtroom that smelled like disappointment and broken dreams, Sandra Martinez's lawyer was probably explaining to her why you should never, ever try to scam a cybersecurity analyst. Because we find things. That's what we do. We follow the data, we document the patterns, we prove the fraud, and we always, always back up our files. Always.